I stared at my reflection in the mirrored elevator walls, adjusting the $80.00 blazer I'd grabbed from a clearance rack at Macy's. In just a few minutes, I'd be sitting through another unbearable family dinner, nodding politely while my siblings flaunted their latest accomplishments, oblivious to everything they didn't know. The elevator chimed, opening to the rooftop lounge of the Chesapeake Club, Baltimore's elite members-only restaurant. There they were, the Langstons, my family, known for their real estate dynasty and their habit of confusing wealth with worth. "Well, look who finally showed," my older sister Rachel called out, her manicured fingers brushing imaginary lint from her Hermès blazer. "Had to squeeze us in between shifts at that little office of yours?" I slid into the empty seat beside my father, ignoring his disapproving glance at my worn shoes. "Sorry, late day," I murmured. "Had to wrap a few things at work." "You're still at that admin job, right?" My younger brother Connor chimed in with a smirk, flipping his Rolex. "Invoices, filing, whatever it is you do." "Something like that," I said flatly. "My real job? CEO of Halcyon Ventures, but they didn't need to know that. Not yet." My father let out a sigh that seemed rehearsed. "Elena, you're 34. When will you stop wasting your potential?" Rachel's overseeing our Florida expansion. Connor just locked in a $10 million 0 cents listing. "And I'm keeping the lights on," I said with a polite smile. Rachel beamed. "You'll love tomorrow's news. Langston Properties is partnering with Bellcrest Capital. Their CEO is flying in to sign the deal, $40 million. Can you believe it?" I sipped my sparkling water slowly, hiding the twitch in my smile. "Bellcrest Capital, my company. We've worked for months on this," Connor added proudly. "They're sending someone named, what was it? Elena Blackwood?" "Never heard of her. Probably someone riding on connections," Rachel added with a smirk. I held their gaze evenly. "You'll get to meet her tomorrow." They laughed, clinked glasses, and talked about legacy. Meanwhile, I mentally reviewed the agenda for tomorrow's meeting, the one where they'd be begging for my signature. They called me the family's black sheep. They still do. But after tomorrow, they'll call me boss. I saw opportunities they were too entitled to notice. The startup I worked for back then, Orion Data Systems, had game-changing AI algorithms, but their finances were a train wreck. When they teetered on the edge of bankruptcy, I quietly used my modest savings and insider knowledge of their cash flow to acquire a controlling stake for pennies on the dollar. The founders were brilliant engineers, relieved to hand off the business side. They just wanted to code and create, and I let them. Within 2 years, Orion had evolved into Bellcrest Capital, a powerhouse tech investment hybrid that now ranks among the top private equity firms in North America. No one ever knew I was behind it. I kept everything shielded behind holding companies and anonymous trusts, attended board meetings via secure video feeds, masking my voice through software. While Rachel and Connor flashed their wealth on social media, I quietly built an empire. Bellcrest now holds equity in over 60 companies, including several that have outbid my family's firm on major real estate developments. I never upgraded my life, still lived in my modest 2-bedroom walk-up in Mount Vernon, still drove the same Honda Civic from college. Success didn't need to be loud. The waiter interrupted my thoughts with another round of cocktails. My mother jumped into her favorite critique, my single status. "You know, Elena, if you just tried a little, maybe got your hair done, dressed in something that didn't look like it came off a clearance rack, you might attract someone worthwhile. Rachel's husband is a partner at Goldman Sachs." Rachel smirked. "James and I are hosting a gala for the Children's Trust next month, $3,000, 0 cents a plate, but don't worry, Elena, we won't make you feel out of place." Connor chuckled. I thought about the invitations sitting on my desk at home. Addressed to Bellcrest CEO. They were practically begging me to attend. "I'm not unhappy," I said, calmly cutting into my steak. "Success doesn't look the same for everyone." My father scoffed. "That's what failures say to feel better." Then Rachel suddenly lit up. "Oh, remember that tiny tech firm you worked for? Guess who bought them? Bellcrest Capital." Connor laughed. "If only you'd stayed, Elena, you could have actually been part of something big for once." I dabbed my lips with my napkin, suppressing a grin. Yes, imagine that. Elena, my mother said, their CEO is brilliant, ruthless, private, the kind of success you'll never be. I raised my glass. Here's to surprises. The CEO of Bellcrest is coming to the contract signing tomorrow, Rachel said, chin lifted like she was announcing a royal visit. They're extremely selective about their partnerships. Clearly, they know the Langston name carries weight. Clearly, I murmured, glancing at my phone beneath the table. An urgent email from my CFO had just come in. Another tech acquisition in San Diego, one that would shake up the entire industry, the kind of deal Rachel couldn't even dream of. Put that away, my mother snapped. It's not like anything important is coming through. Show some manners, Alina. If she knew I was in the middle of negotiating a 9-figure merger, she might think twice, but I just nodded, slipping my phone into my purse. Let them believe what they want, for now. Dinner played out like it always did. Connor bragging about his growing real estate empire, Rachel gushing about her gala guest list, my parents practically glowing with pride at their overachievers, and me? I was the easy target. The quiet disappointment. I let it all roll off me. Tomorrow would speak for itself. The signing was scheduled for 10 a.m. sharp at Langston Properties' main office downtown. Rachel had chased this partnership with Bellcrest for nearly a year, clueless that she'd been negotiating with the sister she dismissed at every opportunity. As we wrapped up, Rachel leaned in with one final jab. Don't worry, Elena. Maybe one day you'll get to vacation at one of my resorts. I'll even let you use the family discount. I smiled, thinking of my cliffside mansion in Big Sur, bought in cash, never rented. That's generous of you, Rachel. Connor tossed down his black Amex to cover dinner. Next round's at my new penthouse, he said with a smirk. Though fair warning, it might make some of us feel a little underdressed. I grabbed my well-worn tote bag and stood. Good luck tomorrow, I said smoothly. I hope everything goes just as planned. Rachel smirked. Some of us can handle real business. Just make sure your little office gig doesn't make you late. I walked past their cars, Rachel's sleek Mercedes, Connor's custom BMW, toward my parked Civic. Tomorrow, I'd pull up in my Rolls-Royce Phantom. Tomorrow, they'd learn the truth. But tonight, I returned to my unassuming apartment, powered up my secure workstation, and closed another deal. Because real power doesn't announce itself, it builds. Quietly, relentlessly, until no one can ignore it. What happens when the so-called black sheep walks into the boardroom as the boss? Don't miss the moment, everything changes. Subscribe and stay tuned for the next chapter in the story. You have to know exactly when to reveal your cards. That morning, I didn't reach for clearance rack slacks. I stepped into my real wardrobe. A navy cashmere chow tai fook suit tailored in Hong Kong, worth more than Rachel's car. My assistant Jordan had already confirmed every detail. Today wouldn't just be a business move. It would be history. The lobby of Langston Properties' downtown headquarters buzzed with its usual entitled energy. Until I stepped through the revolving doors at 9:55 a.m., silence followed. Gone was the woman in bargain heels and a worn tote bag. In her place walked a woman in 6-inch Louboutins, a soft silk blouse, and a presence no one could ignore. Jordan walked a respectful distance behind me, carrying a Montegrappa briefcase worth more than Connor's mortgage. The front desk security guard blinked, twice. He recognized me, but not like this. Miss Blackwood, he stammered. I don't see you on the visitor list today. Check again, I said, calm and unbothered. Under Bellcrest Capital. His brow furrowed, then snapped upward as my name appeared under VIP clearance. Of course, Miss Blackwood, the executive elevator is this way. Every head in the lobby followed my steps. Each click of my heels echoed across the marble floor like a countdown. The elevator ride to the top was silent. Just me, Jordan, and the weight of 7 years of work. Through the glass walls of the boardroom, I spotted them. Rachel pacing in her fake designer suit, ironic considering my company now owned that designer's global licensing. Connor fiddled with his tie, the way he always did when he was nervous. My parents at the head of the table, faces glowing with anticipation. They're expecting Bellcrest's CEO at 10 a.m. sharp, Jordan said, glancing at his watch. Are you ready? I smiled. I've been ready for 7 years. At 10 o'clock on the dot, Jordan opened the door. Conversation halted. 4 pairs of eyes locked on me, their expressions twisted from mild curiosity to utter disbelief. Elena, Rachel choked out. What are you doing here? We're about to have a very important meeting, my father added, tone clipped. I know, I said, placing my briefcase on the glass table and clicking it open. That's why I'm here. My mother narrowed her eyes. This isn't the time for stunts. I pulled out the contract and slid it across the table. It's not a stunt, I replied. Bellcrest's CEO is already here. The silence was absolute. My mother's hand flew to her throat, fingers tightening around her pearls like they might anchor her to reality. Connor looked like a fish gasping for air, his mouth opening and closing with no sound. What kind of joke is this? Rachel snapped, her voice cracking under pressure. Where's the actual CEO? I smiled and calmly slid my business card across the glass table. Thick ivory cardstock, matte finish, understated elegance. Just black text and nothing else. Elena Blackwood, founder and CEO, Bellcrest Capital. My father snatched it up, his face turning a shade of plum that clashed violently with his tailored blazer. This is impossible. Bellcrest is worth billions. You're just a what? I asked, voice level. An underachiever? A disappointment? The black sheep? Jordan stepped forward and began distributing crisp packets of documents, copies of the finalized investment agreement. You'll want your legal team to review Section 8.4 closely, I added. It outlines management compliance conditions, very specific about maintaining operational integrity. Rachel snatched her copy, flipping through the pages with trembling fingers. This can't be real, she stammered. You work in admin, you process invoices. Actually, I said, folding my hands on the table, I haven't processed an invoice in over 7 years. I've been running Bellcrest, that small AI firm I used to work for. I acquired it when it was floundering, just like I've acquired dozens of companies since, including, as of last week, the entire East Coast division of Crestmark Financial. Connor dropped into his seat, pale and wide-eyed. That penthouse you bragged about? I continued. The development deal, funded through one of my subsidiaries. My mother finally spoke. But your apartment, your clothes, that old car. All part of the plan, I said. Not everyone needs a spotlight. Some of us build in silence and let the results speak. My father's voice was low and bitter. Why the secrecy? Why not tell us? Because you never respected what you couldn't control, I replied. You would have meddled, minimized, tried to take the credit. I rose to my feet, smoothing my designer skirt. Calm. In command. Now then, I said, placing a pen beside the contract. Shall we discuss the terms of Bellcrest's $60 million, 0 cents investment into Langston Properties? It's a lot of money. I suggest we go over exactly what you're agreeing to. Rachel's face had gone pale, almost green. The negotiations? I've been negotiating with you this whole time? Through intermediaries, I nodded, though, I have to admit, your original proposal was wildly inflated. Luckily, I already had access to the real numbers. The next hour was excruciating for them and incredibly satisfying for me. I walked them line by line through the Bellcrest Capital contract, pausing just long enough at key clauses to watch their reactions shift from disbelief to dread. The $60 million 0 cents investment would save Langston Properties from the brink. Debt was piling up faster than they could disguise it, even from one another. Their so-called empire was crumbling behind the glossy PR campaigns, and I knew it. Of course, I said, flipping to the last section. This agreement comes with conditions, specifically management restructuring. I looked directly at Rachel. You'll be stepping down as project lead. Her lips parted, stunned. You can't. This is my deal, my project. Actually, I can, and it's my deal, I replied coolly, just like the last 3 you took credit for, every one of them funded by Bellcrest's subsidiaries. I turned to Connor, whose fake composure was cracking. As for your real estate empire, we need to discuss those leveraged loans you've been hiding from the family. Belcrest now owns the majority of that debt, which means you work for me. My father surged to his feet, his chair scraping loudly. Now listen here, Elena, this is outrageous. You can't just come in and— I can, I cut in, voice calm but razor sharp, and I have. Belcrest isn't just some holding firm, we have interests in over 60 major corporations. Your company? It's a footnote in our portfolio. I let that sink in before finishing. But because you're family, I'm giving you a choice. Sign the agreement, accept the changes, or don't, and watch everything collapse when we call in our debts. Silence blanketed the room. Rachel's shoulders shook with silent tears. My mother, so perfectly poised all her life, sat slumped in defeat. Connor stared at the papers like they were written in fire. My father finally picked up the pen. His hand trembled as decades of ego shattered. One by one, they all signed. Jordan collected the contracts as I rose to my feet. I have another meeting across town, I said, slipping on my coat. Let yourselves out. My actual office makes this place look like a glorified storage unit, I said, turning toward the door. Jordan will walk you through the transition. I paused, hand on the handle. Oh, and Rachel, about that charity gala next month? Don't worry about my invitation. She blinked. Why? I bought the venue last year, I replied with a faint smile. Actually, I own most of the buildings your events are hosted in. Funny how that works. The ride back to Belcrest's real headquarters gave me a moment to reflect. Their stunned faces had been deeply satisfying, yes, but this wasn't about revenge, it was about liberation. I was finally free to stop pretending. My phone buzzed, a text from my mother. Why didn't you tell us? I stared out at the Baltimore skyline, thinking of every dinner where they ridiculed my car, every backhanded comment about my potential, every time they treated me like background noise. Because you never would have believed me. You only respect power when it's shoved in your face. In the months that followed, the landscape shifted. Rachel was quietly reassigned to a strategic advisory role, a graceful way of being sidelined. The projects she once claimed were now credited properly to Belcrest's team. Connor's real estate empire was folded under Belcrest's restructuring unit, his debts absorbed, but his independence gone. As for my parents, they rewrote the past like prose. Suddenly, they always known I was gifted, they gushed to friends about their visionary daughter, the mysterious billionaire who just needed time to bloom. I let them talk. It cost me nothing. I kept my modest apartment for balance, and finally retired the Civic, donating it to a local women's shelter. My real residences, including the private penthouse that crowns Belcrest Tower, remained my secret refuge. The next family dinner? It took place in my executive suite, 60 stories above the city. They marveled at the floor-to-ceiling skyline views, the curated modern art, the quiet opulence. I raised a glass of red that cost more than Rachel's monthly salary. Success, I said softly, isn't about what you show off, it's about what you build when no one's watching. No one dared respond. For once, the black sheep had silenced the flock. But the real twist? I still shop at Target. Because real power doesn't need validation. It knows exactly who it is and doesn't flinch when no one else does. If you've made it to the end of my story, thank you. Not just for watching, but for seeing me. For years, I was the one overlooked. The black sheep. The quiet observer who didn't fit into their mold. But I've learned that you don't have to shout to be strong, and you don't need approval to be worthy. If you've ever been underestimated, if your value was measured by your car, your clothes, or how well you fit someone else's expectations, leave a comment below. Tell me your story. I truly want to hear it. And if any part of this resonated with you, hit subscribe, not for the drama, but for the reminder that sometimes the ones they doubt the most are the ones quietly building empires. You don't have to prove your worth to anyone who refuses to see it, you just have to know it for yourself and build anyway, quietly, relentlessly, and in your own way.